All right, welcome to our Unschooled and Unscripted Mastermind. I'm really excited to be here. It's been a long day already, but I'm going to push through and we're going to get started with our um, beginning exercise, which is acronymed at PRAY, Pray. So we're going to get into some prayer. We're going to reconnect. We're going to affirm. We're going to stretch it out a little bit. And then we're going to jump into our conversations for today. Now, this is an impromptu introduction into our world as homeschoolers and as entrepreneurs. So, if you don't know, my name is Atiba and Nicholas, and I am the creator of Nurturology as well as the Household Harmony Project. I am a solo mompreneur, which means I do momming and entrepreneurial endeavors solo, and I am competing with the dryer, breastfeeding baby, toddler, really, and his device to keep him calm. So we are going to pray that we get through this evening without any more hiccups. Um, and then we'll move right through to our theme for today. So let's take 3 deep breaths. I just did one. Let's do two more. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, God, Mother, Father, God, Most High Universe, Divine Spirit of Life. Thank you for another day. Thank you for the courage and the resilience to face challenges and obstacles as they come. Thank you for health and strength to meet those challenges head on. We know that as long as we have breath in our body, there's more to be done, and that we are blessed to be on this side of life. So we are grateful. I pray that today's mastermind is as raw and real as it's going to be, so that we may not only connect with ourselves and with each other, but also whatever mom, family, community member actually watches this and is on the journey to homeschooling and or entrepreneurship. We pray that they find something in this that is a blessing to them and helpful on their journey. I want to say thank you, Most High, for my children. Thank you for my oldest daughter, Saida, who is on the line with me today. She is the reason why I'm in this realm of motherhood coaching and sharing the things that I've learned along our journey. So for her, I'm grateful. I'm also beyond humbled and grateful for her support as we navigate life as a family together. I'm thankful for my son who is here with me now as well. I am beyond humbled and grateful that he's chosen to be here with us. Um, we have had many ups and downs on the road to him being here, and no matter what obstacles come our way, we are absolutely grateful that he is here with us and that we get to handle those things as a family. Lastly, I will say that I am thankful for myself. I want to give honor to myself for continuing to persevere through the challenges that present themselves on the entrepreneurial road as well as the motherhood road. We know that life, has no guarantees, and as much as we try to plan and control external circumstances, those things are beyond our control. The main things that I am grateful for having control over is myself, and I appreciate the trust, divine, that you have placed in me, not only to place these children in my care, but also this vision in my care. So please cover us, please guide us, please give us the wisdom and the insight that you would have us to impart, not only to each other, but to anyone who also watches this. So these blessings, gratitude, and praises in your name. Amen. Ashe. And so it is.
Ashe.
Okay, awesome. So let's reconnect. One thing that we like to do is just play games to break up the energy of anything that might be trying to come into this space with us that is not welcome. So we like to have some fun and allow those games to give us a chance to reconnect and clear our minds and hearts of anything that may have happened before we got into this space. So, Saida, go ahead and share with us the activity that we're doing today. And just so you guys know, I am super protective over my babies. And although I want to share the things that we do with the world, I don't necessarily feel super comfortable having them on camera all the time. So sometimes I give in to that. Other times I'm more strict on it. Saida has chosen not to be on camera today. She may opt into that at a later date. But for now, you'll just be seeing my beautiful face and hearing her beautiful voice in communion with me here. So let's get into it. What game are we playing today, Saida?
Today we're playing the Ungame.
The
It's where
Ungame.
yes.
Okay.
Um, it's where you ask a question and then we both have the chance to answer it. So is 3 cards okay? 3 questions? Okay. So the first question is, what color would you use to describe yourself and why? You're muted.
Thank you. I think I'm wearing the color I might use to describe myself today. Um, I would say that I am very balanced in my boldness and just being really laid back. So, cool blue, but not your typical blue. I have some shades of green in there, like my earrings that Saida made for me and my scarf. So I think teal would be a good color to describe me.
Nice.
How about yourself?
Yeah. A color that I use to describe myself is probably like my favorite color, blue. Just very calm, very controlled. Um, Many different aspects of that color and of my personality. Um, Very creative and yeah, I think that's how I describe myself for the color.
Awesome. What's the next question?
The next question is, you might ask a player a question or comment on any subject that you choose. Um,
All right.
hmm. You can ask this question. Dun dun dun.
Hmm.
Project.
I know, right? What is an unknown aspect of your personality that you would like people to know about?
Um, hmm. It's a very interesting question. Give me a sec to think about it. Probably my competitive side, but like also the part of me that's like still learning to be able to accept that you can't win everything. So
Awesome. Thank you. And we are just going to let any background noise be a part of the experience today. I could have chosen to let that deter us from recording today, but we're pushing through and we're not going to let any of those external factors control the space that we're hoping to create, not only for ourselves, but for other people as well. So, do you have a question for me, or should I answer the same question that I posed to you?
you can answer the same question.
Okay, an unknown aspect of my personality that I would like people to know. I cuss like a sailor. And I want people to know that because I have hidden that part of my personality out of fear of judgment and for the sake of being a motherhood coach and not wanting to be perceived as uncouth, especially if I curse around my children. Um, the one thing I will say about how I choose to use profanity is that it is a part of my very colorful, expressive language. I can be a very passionate person and I feel very deeply. And when I choose to express myself that way, it is for a particular reason, right? It's not just for, you know, lack of intelligence or lack of vocabulary. It is more for um, the theatrics and the catalyst change maker type vibe, very poignant is what I would say. I'm trying to make a point. And so if I'm using that language, it's for a reason. So don't judge me if you hear me cussing. Yes, I'm on the line with my kids. Yes, he's in the background. Yes, a few F bombs and other words may drop, but listen for the context and not to condemn me. How about that? So that's the that's what I would say.
All right. The last question is, oh gosh, share a scary dream.
Oh my gosh. Would you like to go first?
No.
Okay, she's throwing the hot potato in my lap again. A scary dream. Well, I guess I can share what I dreamt of last night, which I don't remember all of the details, but I did have this dream of like worms, white worms. Um, and they were just like coming out of random places and squashing them and trying to get rid of them. It wasn't scary, but it is scary for me. Whenever I dream of those types of things, it's always like an indication that it's time for me to detox. So I'm always like trying to make sure that I don't have any worms or that the babies don't have any worms or that we're not in environments where those things are present. So it can be scary to have those dreams, is my
Okay, I'll go next. Um, so I could definitely say that this dream was scary. It was a very long dream. Um, I kind of like don't want to tell, but at the same time, like do want to tell. Um, so I don't remember how long ago, but I had this dream where there were like these three serial killers, and they were chasing these children throughout like a lot of places, like throughout stores and restaurants. Um, and then like I don't remember like the whole thing, like everything that happened, but like at one point they were all hiding in a truck, and I was not a part of this trip. I was like observing, and then like they found them, and they just had to like keep running for their lives, like through buildings, trying to go to the highest floor, just like trying to get away from them. But in the end, they were able to destroy them in the end. So
Wow.
it's really
Okay.
morbid, but
Th- Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
All right. So hopefully we're feeling reconnected. And for anyone who happens to watch this, hopefully you're feeling connected to us as well. Um, these are always really fun because we get to know things about each other that we would have never guessed and generally would never ask. So let's move on to affirm. So I'll just start it off and then Saida can finish it. Um, Today I affirm victory, and there's the dryer buzzing super loud and annoying. I affirm victory, abundance, divinity, and power. So I'm claiming that as my truth, and I am victorious over any obstacles. I am abundance in action. I am divinity walking the earth, and I am power in pure form.
Beautiful. I'll go next. And today I affirm ease, happiness, and achievement.
Ashe, I claim that alongside you. So we generally like to stretch and clear our energy before we move forward. This whole segment here is really for us to just ground ourselves in the present moment. And so today's yoga pose is going to be rather simple. Thankfully, Emmanuel has moved out of the space so that I can stretch. Today, we are going to bubble up, which is something that allows us to protect our energy and to stay safe within our own um, auric field and within our own environment. And so the bubble up is three um, of the following motions. And please feel free to use this in any situation where you need to protect yourself energetically, mentally, emotionally, or otherwise. So take a big, deep breath. Swoop your arms all the way around your entire body and zip it up right to the center. We're going to do this two more times. Big deep breath. And zip it up. And last time. Awesome. So protect your peace. Remember that. Now, today's unschooled and unscripted theme is caregiving. So we're going to talk a little bit about how that relates to the nurturology framework. And we'll also look at that archetype through the entrepreneurial lens and how that shows up in our unschooling journey. Are you ready, Saida?
Yes.
Awesome. So before we jump into it, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being awful, 3 being I, and 5 being awesome, how would you rate my performance as a caregiver so far? And please feel free to answer truthfully and honestly, unschooled, unscripted. We like to be honest with each other so that we can work through any things that may come up that need to be improved. So give it to them real, please. I can take it. I'm a big girl. I can handle it.
So I'd say 4.5, which is good because the top is 5. And
Okay.
um, the half is just like sometimes me and Iman can sometimes feel like just us personally, sometimes feel like you don't make enough time for us, but we always know that you're there when we need you and that you'll always try and make it up to us if anything makes us feel not right.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate your honesty. So I lost point 0.5, y'all, because I don't make enough time for them. And it's interesting being a homeschooling mom and still not making enough time for them. So, can you imagine if you were a parent who, or you are a parent who sends your child to school, even though you have the evenings and or your morning routines and the weekends, if you're not spending as much time with your kids as I am, I'm sure they might be kind in their assessment, but we know that mom guilt is real. We can't be in every place at the same time, and there's only 24 hours in a day. So, making enough time for everything and everyone that needs us is a challenge. And I accept that. I know that as an entrepreneurial mom, starting a business, all of these other things that I'm responsible for solo, as I mentioned at the beginning, it definitely can be hard to make time for everything and everyone that is tugging on your energy. So
I
I
understand.
appreciate your honesty. Yeah. And, I was sharing that not necessarily to justify, but to just be transparent. And also give myself a little bit of grace. Um, I could be a homeschooling mom that was at a 3, so I'm doing okay. I can't complain about that. So let me ask you this: what does um, caregiving mean to you? How would you define or describe caregiving or a caregiver?
So a caregiver is a person that nurtures a person or more than one person and makes sure that they have everything they need, but also make sure that the caregiver has what they need as well. And the caregiver is also someone that truly has the best interest at heart for the person that they're taking care of and always make sure that everything is good and then they can make time for themselves.
Interesting. So When it comes to unschooled and unscripted, what we've done in the past is really like examined things from an unconventional lens and like how the world may expect certain things from us in certain roles and at certain times in our lives, as opposed to um, what is more um, real and authentic to our personal experience. And so I will define caregiver and then we can kind of interweave some other ideas in there. You good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, a caregiver is a person who prioritizes the well being of everyone in their care, including themselves. So that person gives care to themselves and to everyone that they are responsible for or in that particular role. And a caregiver is tasked with the overall well being and care of a person. Um, Now, an unconventional way of thinking about that brings me back to when I had to be the caregiver for my mom through her health crisis and the other people in our family system that were also tasked at being or tasked with being caregivers and how those things kind of um, evolved over time and also how we all defined it a little bit differently. So I think one of the unconventional ideas about being a caregiver is that it means you're supposed to sacrifice yourself. And there, to me, is a difference between prioritizing something and pedestalizing something. So it's a subtle difference, but to me, it shows up in different ways. So when you put something on a pedestal, you place it above other things, above yourself, above um, your own care, your own well-being. And to prioritize something means that while it might seem like, okay, it should be at the top of the list to prioritize something, it doesn't need to come at your expense. Because if a person. Stop it. This one? It's already playing. Yeah, it's playing already. Yeah. You need to start using the potty too. Yes. What's up? You hungry? Okay, bring your bowl. Caregiving in action. Um, so yeah, prioritizing something, um, meaning that, you know, it's important and that it's, top of the list. Um, again, shouldn't have to come at the detriment of other things, right? So, meaning if something is a priority, right? Let's just say for the sake of this example, feeding, giving Emmanuel something to snack on, right? The priority is making sure that he gets something to eat, but not at the expense of me continuing something else that is also of importance, like this conversation that we're having. So I can focus and redirect my attention to something that is a priority without having to completely close myself off to or become the, you know, last thing on the list in order to prove that I'm a good caregiver. And I think as moms, especially single moms, but moms in general, we're taught to um, pedestalize our families and our children and like let ourselves be the red carpet that everyone gets to walk on, as opposed to understanding that there is a priority for making sure that those who cannot take care of themselves are supported, um, but not at our own expense. Like if I'm taking care of somebody else to the point that I can't take care of myself, or that I have no time or energy to take care of myself, that can be um, harmful to the entire flow and to the entire, um, community that the caregiver is at the center of. So I hope that makes sense. Again, subtle difference, and hopefully that unconventional perspective um, shed some light on how I would define caregiving. Any questions, thoughts, ideas around that?
I just wanted to say that that was very well said, and I can definitely understand the point that you're coming from. And I have one question. What happens if the caregiver is on overload?
That's a great question. Well, how about you share some of your experience about me being a caregiver and what it's like when I'm on overload?
If I'm being honest, it can definitely be a difficult time with kind of filled with lots of hard conversations and things that we kind of just need to work through angrily or not. And definitely a fuse goes off in your mind and you just like can't really take it anymore. And you kind of just like, well, like an example of that is like when the caregiver is on overload, they can definitely sometimes feel disrespected and then like kind of go on strike and like say like, let's see how good you do on your own then, or something like that. And so like we have like opposite days or like opposite week where like I'm the mommy and then you're the person being cared for. And then like I get to call you by your real name and all sorts of stuff. um, but yeah, it's definitely not something to, I wouldn't say look forward to, but it's definitely not something that you'd want to happen as a caregiver or the person being cared for.
You mean the overload?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
it can definitely throw like everyone for a loop.
Yeah. So I have a question. Does it feel like it throws everyone for a loop when the caregiver is on overload because the expectation is that there should be no bounds to what a caregiver is capable of on behalf of the people they care for?
No, but like to a certain extent that can be true, but like also you kind of just like kind of get a bit cranky about like what am I gonna do without my caregiver?
Oh, okay.
How am I gonna survive? I'm joking.
Right. Okay, so if I understand correctly, there is some undertones of there should be no bounds to how much you can give when you're a caregiver. And when that does happen, when the overload happens and that person, takes a break, speaking for our family dynamic, when that person takes a break, it feels um a little uncomfortable because it's like, well, what do I do in those times when the caregiver is all cared out and they have nothing left to give, huh?
All right.
Okay. So you shared one of our secret weapons to rebalancing and reharmonizing our household when the caregiver is pooped and has nothing left to offer. And that is opposite day or opposite week, depending on how much of a break the caregiver needs. Um, and I think a part of, I'll say it this way, I think a part of the overload, as well as how long of a break, a recovery time the caregiver needs, um, depends on how underappreciated they feel and how overworked and taken for granted that effort and sacrifice seems to be by the people that they're caring for. So I know that this has shown up in my role as a caregiver for my mom, which was not an easy job. It was a 24/7 task, and I was on call all the time for myself, for my children, and for my mom. And that was really a lot on me. When other people did come to support and kind of help balance the load a little bit, it still felt like I was the caregiver now for the other person who came in to help, and that I would have to sometimes pick up the slack for other people that weren't necessarily showing up, in their fullest capacity or to their best potential. Um, and also, like, in my role as a mom, you know, a lot of what we do goes unappreciated or unnoticed, or people say the cliche, it's a thankless job. And so if there's too much of that and it starts to pile on where that person has pedestalized or prioritized everyone else before themselves, then for us, a day could be, it could easily turn into a week of necessary restorative self-care and recovery time. Anything you want to say about that?
No, but I think I can also like resonate with that caregiving aspect because, well, you were also, while you were caring for your mom, I was also helping, and like I guess I like felt this like kind of obligation where like if even if she didn't ask, I would still wake up at 1 o'clock in the morning to check on her and then end up staying there for an hour and then like going to sleep tired and then waking up tired and then like just kind of like over and over again. It's like it's not an easy process, so I can definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. We've talked about this previously, how we as a family had to really step in and support um, in that trying time. And I think it really gave you a unique perspective on what it means to be a caregiver. And although it wasn't your responsibility, you did feel a sense of obligation, as you say, to pitch in and to help. And, my mom is the queen of guilt trips, so it's not like any of us really had a choice. But we were obviously willing and able to do it for as long as we were. And I know that you can relate to that feeling of being underappreciated, taken for granted, and the amount of recovery time that you would need definitely depends on how deep in you were to those. not so fun feelings being a caregiver. Um, so, what are the upsides to being a caregiver? Because the nurturology framework that I've created really at the foundation of this particular um, uh, process that we're talking about has to do with the entrepreneurial side of things and the archetypes that we have to embody for whatever it is that we're undertaking, right? So being a caregiver doesn't only mean being responsible for people, it could also be a level of responsibility and care that we have to provide to our ideas, or to ourselves, to our belongings, to our communities, um, to, abstract ideas like our careers. And so when we think about a caregiver, you know, there are some things I would like to kind of explore around what's good about it. What makes being a caregiver something that any person, especially women and mothers, should aspire to? What's the upside of that?
So I'd say definitely the joy of being able to take care of someone, and like it like to a certain extent feels nice to have like responsibilities and take care of someone. It makes you feel mature in a certain kind of way. And like not just like the underappreciation, but like you can also be appreciated for caregiving in ways that like sometimes you wouldn't have even thought of. And what's really beautiful about it is that there's always like a way to come back from the ups and downs and like restore like a sense of balance in, and even like in the hardest of times there's always like something to be grateful for. So that's definitely some of the parts of the upside.
I appreciate that. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit and challenge something on behalf of um, women and mothers who are just exhausted and tired of having to be the caregiver, um, and for that archetype to just be, pushed on to them, um, whether they've asked for it or not. It's like an inherent um, character trait that women and mothers are expected to have and expected to um, embody for the benefit of other people. Um, and I want to get to the upsides, but I wanted to push back on something that you said, because a lot of times people will make women feel bad for not wanting to be a caregiver, and will say some of the things that you've mentioned, like there does come some sense of joy in caring for other people and seeing that you are mature enough, responsible enough, that you've successfully done some of those things. Um, and some women have been pushing back and saying, forget all that. Like, it's hard enough taking care of myself, much less taking care of other people. Um, and have like opted out of being in caregiver roles, leaving it maybe up to nursing home facilities, or adoption, or opting out of motherhood altogether and not taking on the role of caregiver outside of themselves. And so, from your perspective, what would you say about that? Not necessarily to anyone, or just speaking to that perspective.
So, as young as I am, think it's weird or not, I have considered deciding not to be a caregiver in my when I grow up. But like as much as I want to say no, I am. No, I'm not. I'm still kind of pondering on it, and I'll definitely just have to see what road my life has to go on. But I don't think that anyone should feel shame or obligation to be a caregiver because, like free will, it's your choice. And if you decide to be a caregiver, that's great. And if you decide not to, that's great too. And there's like all upsides and downsides to being a caregiver or not being a caregiver.
Mm,
But either way, there's still going to be ups and downs of life itself. So,
yeah, that's a great point. And the next part of my question is, can there ever be a reality where people are separated from caregiving? And I ask this because we may not necessarily choose to take care of other people and may choose to just solely be responsible for ourselves. But doesn't that still mean that we are a caregiver to ourselves? So is there
definitely.
any way to separate that? Can we ever really get away from being a caregiver?
Hmm. So I think the only way you could separate yourself from that is like somehow still being alive, but your whole body is like in pieces. So just laying in like a hospital bed, like that's the only way you're not taking care of yourself and being cared for at the same time.
Yeah. So it sounds like for most people, they're not going to choose to disassociate from their bodies in order to let someone else care for them unless they're like
It's not worth it.
in, yeah, right. So we still have to give care even if just to ourselves. And because of that, it is
Right.
still at the root and at the foundation of our humanity, right? To care for ourselves, right? I know there's this biblical verse that Jesus is telling people to love their neighbor just as themselves, right? And as much as we may want to be isolated from any external responsibility for caring about or caring for anything outside of us, whether we're pet parents or actual parents to human babies, or that we have ideas that we have to care for and nurture and, you know, allow them to grow and to feed them with different, you know, things. I think there really is no separation between our humanity and being a caregiver. So the nurturology framework, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that like in life it's kind of inevitable you're gonna have to like about something or care for something other than yourself. Whether it's a companion or significant other or it's a plant, you're gonna have to care about something other than yourself. It's
Yeah.
inevitable.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was diving into the nurturology framework itself, where, when I came up with it, I centered my womanhood and my motherhood and the shared experience that other, you know, women and mothers may have. And then I really, as I continue to dissect it and apply it to everyday life and take it out of a particular context and put it in another one and just break it apart and put it back together, I realized that it's not just about womanhood or motherhood, it's about um, being human. And that so many of the archetypes that show up in the nurturology framework can cross those lines of gender and gender roles, gender norms, and societal expectations. Um, because if we don't care for the planet, then we lose the ability to enjoy it. If we don't care for our bodies, we lose the ability to use it and enjoy it. If we don't care for our minds and the way that we engage with other people because we are not here alone, um, then we become isolated and lonely. And that in itself is detrimental to us mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. To be isolated and lonely for extended periods of time is deadly. And so, being a caregiver is not something that we can separate ourselves from. And therefore, we have to find healthier ways to embody that archetype and to share the care from ourselves to others, with others, whether they be humans, plants, pets, anything like that. Um, so I do want to get to the upsides of being a caregiver. Um, I can honestly say that as difficult as motherhood can be and has been, learning how to care for another person has helped me to care for myself better. And what I mean by that is by holding space for the full expression of, say, my children, it has opened up blockages and spaces within my own being that no one ever taught me to care about. And I've healed things that generations before me have neglected to even look at because of my responsibility to care for my children or to care for other people. Um, in ways that I had previously neglected myself, I have done the work to identify those things and to iterate and like change and grow around that so that I could be a better mother, a better person, but also better to myself. Um, I think that if I had opted out of motherhood, I might have all of these other sacrifices that didn't necessarily need to be or wouldn't have necessarily needed to be made. But I also would not have learned the depth of my ability to love unconditionally from within. It really has less to do about the external um, giving of unconditional love so much as it has to do with the internal allowing of unconditional love to be felt and to be experienced, especially when it comes to my relationship with the divine. And in a lot of ways, hold on. he had enough of being in here with me, so he's gonna go hang out with his sister. Um, I think in a lot of ways, me taking my role as a caregiver seriously and doing that introspection and that reflection with how the universe, how God cares for me and is a caregiver to me and for all of the things that come with my needs as a human and as a spiritual being. um, I feel honored to be a caregiver, and I feel honored to be able to reflect what the universe, what God source has done for me in the lives of other people, whether they are able to acknowledge it, appreciate it, understand it or not, is something that I feel very blessed to do. And for me, I would say those are the upsides. There are aspects of our being that are unknown to even ourselves when we don't allow the true meaning of what it means to care for other people to show up in our lives. I think we do ourselves a disservice if we remain in a very isolated and selfish kind of self-centered, which is not a negative thing, but when we remain in that space, it kind of blocks us from being able to expand our understanding and awareness of care and how we are cared for and how we can share that with other people. So I hope that makes sense. The nurturology framework is definitely rooted in a self first um, archetype where nothing that the frameworks encourage is neglecting oneself in any way, shape, or form in order to fill a role or to embody a particular um, way of being or way of doing things in the world. It's really about caring for oneself and then, as an extension of that, being able to care for someone else and so reflected in the other archetypes as well. Thoughts, ideas, questions, feedback?
Hey, I was helping Eman get something to focus on. Um, I think that what she said was good. I don't have any questions or anything, so we can move on to
Okay.
whatever's next.
Okay, awesome. So when it comes to, let's just switch gears a little bit. We've defined caregiver, we've looked at the downsides, we've looked at the middle ground, we've looked at the upside of it. When it comes to being a caregiver and entrepreneur, so that intersection of being a caregiver and entrepreneur, what would you say are some of the like overlaps that show up in being a caregiver and being an entrepreneur?
I don't know, what was the question?
Her mouth is full. She's snacking on something, so she ain't paying me no mind right now. We'll wrap shortly, but I was asking about the overlaps between caregiving and entrepreneurship.
Um, so basically, like the healthy balance between it.
How does caregiving show up in your entrepreneurial journey?
Okay. Um, so I think caregiving can definitely show up in like just tending to your business and just making sure that like it's up to date, it has everything that it needs, it has the care that is required for running it. And then like also like caring for like your customers or like your audience and like really nurturing them and keeping out like a good connection with them too. So yeah, I think it's just like the healthy balance between like caring for like the people in your business or supporting your business and your business itself
Mm.
is definitely required for running a good operation.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I definitely agree. I think that although our wealthiest um, may not always display a healthy level of care for others, especially those that have helped them to become wealthy. Um, as a mother, I could definitely see the overlaps in like having to wear different hats at different points in time. So, especially as a solopreneur, and then add the mom to it, so solo mompreneur, I have to keep appointments for the children. I have to keep appointments for my business. I have to manage time for our daily routines. I have to manage time for executing things in the business. Um, when it comes to being adaptable, right? I may wake up one day and have intentions to get certain things accomplished, and I have to be flexible because things change. To manage different, crises that happen, whether it be an elbow popped out of place and having to run to the ER, or whether it be a portion of our business that is not functioning the way I expected it to, and then having to, you know, divert resources, time, and attention, energy, all of that stuff into addressing that particular crisis or situation. Um, you know, Delegating tasks. As a mom, it's really important to ask for the help that you need, whether it be chores around the house, or instead of the energy it takes for me to move to do something, might be a little bit less work or energy for asking one of the children. So delegating tasks. Um, and so too with the business, right? We don't know everything, so we have to turn over some of those responsibilities to people who are better equipped and who have the energy and resources to do those things. When it comes to like solving problems and figuring out how to get from point A to point B, that definitely shows up in both spaces. Motivating ourselves as moms and as entrepreneurs to like get up every day and focus on the things that we know are going to push the needle forward, as well as motivating the people that we are responsible for, whether that be our children, motivating them to join Mastermind, even though they've had a rough night and hadn't slept, or motivating, our employees, or, you know, the people who support our business endeavors to get into action and, to believe in themselves, to persevere through the challenges, and, to have that mental toughness to keep going when things are difficult. And I think the last part is just like building a safe space, right? So as moms, it's important that we build a safe space for our families and for ourselves. And then as an entrepreneur, we also have to build a safe space for our clients and for our customers and for the people that come in to help us do the tasks that our business endeavors actually require. So um, I think there's a lot of overlap. And if you're a mom, you really are running a business already. You may not necessarily look at it that way, but if you shifted the perspective a little bit as a mom, the business name might be your family's name, right? Your business uh, registrations and the other things that need to be in compliance for your family are the appointments that need to be kept, and all of the different things that come with parenting definitely show up as well in business. And so, kind of doing a little bit of research before our time together today, there's this consensus that moms are equipped, generally speaking, to be good entrepreneurs because of all of the things that we have to manage and the level of intentionality that many of us, not all of us, many of us use to navigate our responsibilities as mothers is also reflected in the entrepreneurial journey. So there's a lot of blurred lines when it comes to managing a household and managing a business. So, any thoughts, ideas, questions about that?
Hmm. Let me think of a question real quick. So, what is it like caregiving for a business in like um, short amount of time?
Hmm. I would say that it is like the image that came to mind was anger from Inside Out with his hair on fire. Um, it's like that, and also how anger has his moments where his hair is not on fire and recognizes that there's room for and necessity for other emotions to come into play. The entrepreneurial journey can be very frustrating. It has its ups and downs and lots of challenges, which is why many businesses don't succeed past a certain time. Um, but it's like running around with your hair on fire and that having to be okay, and knowing that there are times where that feeling, that level of fire, passion, gusto, energy, um, needs to be tamed, and that other things need to come into play in order for it to succeed and for it to grow. Um, as entrepreneurs, we're trailblazers in a lot of ways, and we're carrying the torch for a particular idea, dream, vision, lifestyle, whatever. And to have that torch lit means that there's something within us that's burning, a burning desire, or something that has rubbed us the wrong way or caused friction. And that is what caused us to create the business in the first place. And so that's where that analogy and image kind of came from.
That's really interesting because it sounds just like parenting.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like
That's
that if go ahead.
That's like how sometimes I'm like, having a child is just like having a pet. So having a
Yeah.
business is just like having a child.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's definitely lots of overlap there. Um and even as you were speaking, and it's loud, there's like a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace. There's a lot of noise from your community, people that either believe in you or don't believe in you, think you're crazy for your choice to be an entrepreneur or to be a mom. There's just a lot of noise, right? And to be able to like cut through that noise and to find the joy in the choice that you've made, whether as a mom or an entrepreneur, is a part of the journey, right? For me, I can say hearing the struggles of fellow moms and also hearing the struggles of fellow entrepreneurs, it would be wonderful to just disassociate and be a vegetable and let somebody else do all the caregiving and not have to be responsible for anything. But the refining fire that is motherhood and that is entrepreneurship is something that provides us a level of character and insight and wisdom that you just don't have unless you've walked on those hot coals. Unless you've done it, you just really don't know. And it's okay to have those hair on fire moments. And it's also okay to really love it. And I think those two things can be true at the same time. You know, just as well, entrepreneurs and moms love their role and the life that they've chosen. There are some days where you just don't like it and you hate it some days and you wish you never made that decision some days. But looking back on it and recognizing how much it challenges you and how much you grow through those challenges, I think is something that no matter which day you catch a person on, they will still see the value in the journey itself. So that's what I believe. Um,
Um, yeah, I don't think I have any questions, so
okay.
let's keep
So
going.
I feel good and I feel complete. Um, I want to kind of lighten it a little bit and I want to talk about really briefly our most recent experience going to Invest Fest together. Um, Being a mompreneur, a solo mompreneur, meant that when the opportunity to go to Invest Fest came up, there was really nowhere else for the kids to go but for them to come along for the ride and to be a part of that. And I really wouldn't have had it any other way to sit, at the conference far away from my children for that many hours every single day is not something I would have willingly chosen. And so I was glad to take you and your brother with me. Um, so I want to just touch base on that a little bit. What was it like going to such a big conference for entrepreneurs with your mom?
It was definitely interesting. Like just with all the speakers, we got to see some famous people. It was really cool, and there were definitely even ups and downs in that experience as well, especially with like E-Man and surprisingly enough, me. Because one time we went to, actually, no, two times, we went to the marketplace and we were kind of just like walking and we were like waiting for something and we were kind of like standing for a while and like my feet started getting tired and I kind of just like my mood just like slowly deteriorated into an attitude. And like by the time we were like back at the conference room, like I just needed to eat something so that like I could like reset. And E-Man was a little antsy, but we figured it out and we were able to still have a good time. And there was definitely a caregiving aspect in that experience as well. But it was really fun as well. I even got a bookmark from the marketplace.
Yay. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm glad that Saida is mature enough and transparent enough to own up to those moments where she wasn't in her highest vibration and having the most fun, where she was just being, I wouldn't necessarily call it bratty, but, ready to go home or, being hangry and kind of taking that out on me to a certain extent. So there was definitely lots of caregiving that needed to happen at that time. But even just like self care, right? Understanding what was too much, like when we needed to step out and take a break, or when we needed to eat, or when we needed to, kind of push through and stay in a certain conference room or certain conversation. It was actually beautiful. I had a great experience where um, a mom saw that I had the kids and pushing a stroller, I have a toddler and a preteen. So, she was curious about if there was any pushback with me bringing the kids. And it just allowed us to have an amazing conversation. I got to share some extra tickets with her. She was able to bring her kids into that environment. And although they didn't stay as long as my children did, it was just nice for another mompreneur to share in that experience with her children. And so that was a blessing for me. Um, I look forward to continuing that connection and friendship as with many of the other people that I met while we were there. And for me, I will say that I made a commitment to Saida when her brother was still an infant that I would spend, you know, at least 5 years really showing her the full range of what her mom is capable of and who I am. When we become moms, there are certain aspects of our lives that have to sit on the back burner or just go on ice, frankly. And there were parts of me that she didn't necessarily know in a real way, up close and personal. And so being able to go to these events allows her to see me in my vibrant social butterfly vibration as opposed to being at home with them and still needing more time and attention, even though I'm home with them all day. And most of my day is catering to their needs. It's interesting when she gets to see me in those other um, environments and different ways that I get to show up and be myself that she's not always so familiar with. Um, and so, yeah, it was a great experience. I'm really glad that we were able to go. Shout out to my homeboy Nair, who allowed us to get into that event, pretty last minute. And it was just really great to hear all the other speakers. Um, and I think what was awesome for us too is, or was, seeing all of the women on the panel that happen to be mothers as well, and how they've managed to be powerhouses and um, just really grounded moms, and to be transparent and authentic about their challenges and their journey, and even just how they've been able to persevere. It was just really great to see. So, um, if you guys have enjoyed this conversation, we definitely invite you to join us again next Monday. This is our kind of mommy and me mastermind that we utilize this space to cultivate more relationship and connection with each other, and also to work on our business. Thursdays will not be recorded or live streamed for the public. It will be our think tank sessions where we can really get into the workshop and behind the scenes of our business so that we can bring more amazing content and conversations and resources and things like that to you all. And hopefully you've enjoyed my baby girl. Like, she is amazing. Our homeschooling journey has allowed us to really care for each other and for ourselves and for these visions that we are putting out in the world. So the Household Harmony Project, as I mentioned earlier briefly, is really about equipping moms with the tools, resources, and community that are needed, especially for those of us that are single entrepreneurial moms, so that we can create harmony within our households, so that we can share those entrepreneurial values with our children and teach them to, be the boss, even if they sometimes have to boss us around in the process. So, I'm going to share. Let's see. I thought I had the link there, but that's okay. I'll put it up on the screen now. I'm going to share the link for how you can learn more about the Household Harmony Project and how you can potentially join in our efforts. If you believe that the revolution begins at home, then this is definitely a safe space for you there. Let me get it up on the screen. So if you can see there, nurturology.org /B /support HHP. When you get your free download, which is our poster um, to tell you more about our community wellness initiative, you'll also get access to our monthly newsletter and you'll be added to the wait list for our school community that's launching soon. So I'm really excited about that. Saida is helping me tinker around and understand how to navigate that community so that we have a safe space for the single solo mompreneurs to come in and collaborate and support each other and potentially have you guys join us in the Mommy and Me Mastermind and build out your vision with your family as well. So, with that, I feel complete. I love you guys so much. Saida, I love you. We made it. We did it. We
Yeah.
persevered and pushed through. So that is a win for us. Any last words before we go?
I had a great time. This was a great conversation, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Peace.